This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, July 5th, 2010, and this is episode 742 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hodgeberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, another hot date, huh?
Hot date. I got nothing.
Another hot date.
Hold
on. I got it.
Google is not allowed.
Google. No. It's not carousel of progress. I don't know.
Mr. Newell, I think you have it.
No, I do not.
Oh, I thought you had it.
No.
That sounded like a very confident chuckle.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny.
Oh. Okay. Or hilarious chuckle. What is it, Mike?
Ellen's Energy.
Oh, yes.
When is
When he asked for the
that?
Oh, yeah, the
Bill
first
Nye.
yeah.
He asked for aluminum foil. Or whatever.
Oh, wow. Good one, Mike.
Yes.
Stupid Judy.
If you'd like to have your own energy nightmare, self stuff. Also joining us on today's show is Len Tessick, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome back to the show, Len.
How's it going, Matt?
Outstanding. Also joining us on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome to the show, Mike.
I'm looking forward in 2 weeks to my cruise and another trip to Disney. Let's get going. I got lots of questions.
And also joining us on today's show is the fabulous Annette Owens, a manager of customer relations and group services for MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Welcome to the show, Annette.
Hey, I'm with Mike. I can't wait. 2 weeks. Cruising.
Woo. Woo-hoo. The faster you guys go on your cruise, the faster I go on mine. So all the better.
We'll wave to you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, on today's show, we're actually going to be answering a listener email. It was actually a show idea suggested by one of our listeners, Carrie from Missouri. And Carrie writes, hey guys, and Fabu Annette. I don't know what Fabu means, but whatever.
Fabu. Ooh.
This is Carrie in Missouri with probably the third or fourth question I've sent in, all of which have yet to be answered. Oops. Well,
So we went last first.
Third time's the charm. I just came up with a great topic that would probably answer all my questions in one show. You see, there's a method to our madness. We know sooner or later you're going to capitulate. And anyway, how about doing a show based on people who don't get to go to the parks as often as once a year? How would you tour the parks differently if you knew this was a once every 2 or 3 years event? Here's just a few of the dilemmas a family like mine may face. As with most families, we can't really stay longer than 7 or 8 days. Our kids are growing and are not interested in the same stuff they were 3 years ago. For instance, my 9-year-old daughter was thrilled to do Princess Breakfast in Epcot on our last trip in 2007, but now at age 12, you couldn't drag her in there. There are new eateries and new attractions since our last trip in 2007, and we know we can't try them all. There are also classics that we don't want to miss. Our next trip is October 2011, and we're celebrating our 10th anniversary, and our kids are looking for something special, in quotes, to do. But also we'll be including the kids, son age 8, daughter age 13. So in a nutshell, what would you guys do if you hadn't been to Disney World in 3 years and knew you wouldn't be able to make it back for another 2 or 3? We can't afford a deluxe, but would like to do a moderate and the dining plan. By the way, you are the best source for info on the parks and how to get the most magic out of your Disney vacation. That's why I keep harassing you guys. Thanks for all you do. Obligatory yet sincere kiss up.
Awesome.
This is a great topic, and this is why we chose to answer this one specifically. So, Scopa, planning a trip if you're not going down for 3 years, I mean, that's a little harder than even the annual trip, right?
Yeah, it's funny because about some 20, 25 years ago, that's what I was doing. Every 2 years I would go down, and you do approach it differently. One of the things that you do is you need to put down on paper exactly what you want to do so that you don't forget it. Unlike nowadays when a lot of us will go like 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year, it's not a big deal if we miss something here or there. I think one of the things that you have to do if you're going every 2 or 3 years is put priorities in place. That is, what you want to make sure that you want to see, must-sees or must-dos, and what you want to do, I think, is that you want to plan to do those as early as possible in the vacation, because you don't want to say, well, I can do that tomorrow, I can do it the next day. So you want to make that list. You need to take a look at Len's calendar. You need to make sure that you know exactly what parks are going to be crowded. When you're there, you need to plan on having long days in the park. You need to plan on getting up early. You need to plan, if you're staying on the property, to take advantage of extra magic hours. I mean, you need to do a lot of things, but first and foremost, you need to put a lot of this on paper. You need to really think about what your favorite things are, attractions, and also what new attractions have surfaced since your last visit, and somehow work them into the schedule. It's much more involved with the planning aspect of the trip when you go every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a need for planning and balance because, even when I was going once a year, inevitably when I went down there, I would always want to do the classic stuff I loved and, like the TTA, like, making sure I got those in. And inevitably that would take time away from maybe the new stuff to try out, be it a new restaurant, a new attraction, whatever it may be. And so I think it requires that kind of planning balance. Len, talk to us about what your thoughts are for someone who's trying to tackle the parks after, with a 2-3 year absence.
So there are two ways to approach it. One is if you know you're not going to be back for a couple of years. One approach is to make sure that you start off with a comprehensive tour of the parks. That is, make sure you take enough time to see everything there is to see. If this is your first trip and you know you're not going to be back for a while, so that means that allocating enough time for the Magic Kingdom. 2 days. 2 days for Epcot, maybe a full day for the studios.
Full day, I think is what you mean.
Yeah, that's a full month. Yeah, and then an hour or two for the Animal Kingdom. No, just kidding. Full day for the Animal Kingdom. That's one key element there. The other thing too is if this isn't your first trip, but you haven't been in a couple of years, you need to make sure that you get in all the new attractions that have. Or any new attractions that have opened since you haven't been there, or things that might be scheduled to close before your next trip. So this last trip, I made a special trip to Toontown with the girls to see everything in Toontown that might not be there again when the next time we come back.
Out of curiosity, based on what you just said, did you ride Star Tours? Because I know you hate it, but it's going away.
I did, in fact, ride Star Tours.
Wow.
I know.
You were a man of principle.
I know. Kept my eyes closed almost the entire time.
Nice.
Just because motion sickness, but yeah, I did.
Love it.
And was doing it for them. That's the big thing. Make sure you allocate enough time, and then make sure you see the things that are new, or things that you haven't, that you might not see again.
Now let's talk about one of the specific questions that Carrie had was the resort to stay at. They're looking at they want to do a moderate, or I guess a value if that was what you guys thought. But what are your thoughts on a good resort for them? They're going in October, if that matters any. They've got, again, 2 kids, son 8, daughter 13. What resorts stick out for you guys as recommendations for where they should stay?
See, for me, Riverside's just jumping out and ask for a room with a trundle bed because you've got a girl and a boy and you can separate them, especially since one was 8. Mm-hmm. He'd be able to fit on the trundle bed. And I'm just going to say, back on the planning thing, I think it's great she was asking the kids what they wanted to do, what had changed from when they went before, because, kids get older, they have different things their friends have done when they've gone down. So, but I lean towards Riverside on the resort.
Okay. Len, what do you think about the resort?
Yeah, I think Riverside's a good choice. The other one would be Coronado Springs because of the pool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scopa?
I kind of agree with Annette. I'd go with Riverside. Although, I guess I'd go with Riverside. I want to say Caribbean, but I keep thinking of a few months ago, so I'm going to stick with Riverside.
Yeah, I was thinking Caribbean Beach too, because their pool is pretty good. But it's hard to recommend a resort we just kind of poo-pooed a little bit.
Eat up.
Yeah. Newell, what do you think?
I'm with everybody else. Riverside is my favorite.
How about this option? They're looking to do something special for their 10th anniversary, but it's got to be able to include the kids. So, Victoria and Albert's is out.
Dining,
yeah. I guess something special. It doesn't have to be dining. I mean, it could be anything, really.
I was going to say Cirque du Soleil.
What are you saying, Mike?
Yeah, I was going to say Cirque du Soleil, but Hoop-Dee-Doo's a better option because you have a meal there.
Yeah.
It's cheaper.
It's much better, yeah.
And it's cheaper. You're right. I like Mike's idea much better.
Now, and this is what I did for one of my anniversaries. We went to Chico's. The kids got kids' meals, and then when they were done, they went and looked at the animals at the resort, and we finished our dinner. So they got to hang around and see the animals there. And
Yeah, Chico's a good restaurant. I was just thinking, I don't know. I
Not
mean,
cheap, but
not cheap,
Yeah.
But more importantly, I think the issue is with the picky eaters, and I don't know.
mac and cheese. I mean, I've got picky eaters. Trust me. They
That's
got
true.
chicken fingers everywhere, even at
I was
Chico's.
gonna. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess Hoop-de-Doo sounds like the good option. Len, any other thoughts on something else that perhaps would be good for to do for a special occasion?
Mickey's Backyard Barbecue.
Oh,
Keeping
we
it
still have to try
yes.
that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. I think that would
You know,
that'd be a better choice because it's outdoors and you can walk around and stuff if there are kids involved.
That just
ahead.
led me to think about the carriage rides, which are over there as well.
See, I was going to say
Yeah.
carriage rides are good, but I think the kids will be bored on that. But along those same lines, sort of, Annette, I'm going to say like an Illuminations dessert, a cruise rather, Illuminations cruise.
There's stuff exploding and there's dessert. It's perfect.
I think it's fun for kids of all ages. I like the Illuminations one far more than the Wishes one. I think we all were not
Right.
very thrilled with the Wishes one, but the Illuminations one, it's it's pricey, so we got to keep that in mind. But if you it can't. I think it's a better experience overall, and it's something that could be. But Hoop-de-Doo is a really good option. I like that. So
Yeah.
whoever said that, it was Mike or somebody.
Opa.
Yeah, pat yourself on the back, Mike.
But
So
don't
what
hurt
else-
yourself.
Or unmute yourself, then pat yourself on the back, and mute yourself. Then. So let's go back again to the planning process for going to figuring out. If you're going for, again, this is the first trip in 3 years, and it may be the only trip again for another 3 years.
I like the idea of upgrading your resort. Normally, I think we've talked about this pretty frequently. When I go to Walt Disney World, I'll stay off site just because I'm there enough and I'm looking to minimize cost.
Mm-hmm.
But if I knew that I wasn't coming back for 3 years, I would definitely try and capture as much magic as possible, and that means staying at a Disney resort so I can get extra magic hours. It means not having to worry about transportation and things like that. Definitely an on-site recommendation there.
Okay. What do you think of the dining plan?
No, it's just not a good value.
Yeah, I mean, there's that aspect. I mean, I think, especially with the kids and the picky eaters, I mean, there might be a situation where, and not only that, never mind, I'm going to toss that all out the window. I'm saying just from the dining plan, the idea that you're going to be sitting at a sit-down meal every day, I don't think is, if you're there for only for one time in every 4 to 6 years, I would think you'd want to maximize your time, and that means eating at a counter service restaurant maybe a sit-down here and there, but, mostly eating at counter service to, maximize your time in the parks, enjoying the different attractions and whatever. So what do you think about that? Would you see yourself, would you agree that they should be maximizing their times and not eating necessarily a sit-down meal every day? Or do you think a sit-down meal is okay every day?
Well, I think that one of the things that if you're not going down every year and you've got this gap, I think that what you'll tend to do is you're going to be planning a lot of things on the fly, and I think it's probably good to have one sit down meal a day, where you actually can go down and say, okay, so let's talk about, do we need to adjust the schedule? And it's very hard to do that while you're walking around the parks, but if you're sitting at a table, you're settling down, I think that it's good to do that at least once a day, and I would recommend breakfast for that. Well, actually, I take that back. I would recommend a late lunch for that, because you don't want to be fooling around with breakfast too much. You want to be able to get into the parks. You want to eat something quickly at your hotel room or at the resort you're at, and then take off. But I think once a day, it's good to say, okay, have we done what have we done? What do we need to do? Do we need to adjust the schedule? You really need to take that time to do that, because you're only going every 2 or 3 years, and you don't want to have any regrets, because you know that when you get on that plane, when you leave Orlando, you're thinking, oh man, we forgot to do this, we forgot to do that. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, priorities are important. Annette?
I think the one thing I want to add to that is not saying, because it was October 2011, right?
Right.
When they're going, can't say what their kind of specials they're going to run next year, but free dining goes into October this year. So it could be that, that changes the ball game a little bit, because if you're getting free dining,
Yeah.
it's more of a value to you than.
Well, speaking of food, the other thing, by going in October, I don't know if it could be good, it could be bad, depending on your perspective.
Yeah.
Food and Wine Festival is going on. And so that's going to be something else. And I know that if you spend any time either listening to this show or reading, any kind of Disney website, sooner or later, you're going to hear a lot of buzz about the Food and Wine Festival in Epcot. And, that's going to be something to really, you're going to have to almost devote, Len mentioned 2 days in Epcot, and that's going to be something where maybe even need more time than that in order to not only see all the attractions, the regular attractions in the park, but then also have time to be able to enjoy Food and Wine Festival. Because if you've never done it before, it's really something to be able to, you got to try it out at least once and certainly devote enough time to enjoy it. I mean, there's some people who go down there for a week and, never get enough of it. So, that's definitely something I think you have to keep in mind. Newell, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know that you go with your family often, and your family doesn't necessarily get to come as often as you do. What would be some of your recommendations for someone who's coming, not too often?
They're not as worried about missing stuff as we are. I think the casual guest is not going to be as worried.
It's an interesting point you made. Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, where we have to, like, Captain EO is going to be down in July when I go down, and that's something that I really want to see because I know it's going away at the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. Whereas if my mom's there, she's not going to be that crazy about seeing it. So she's going to avoid it. Whereas, us diehards really will tend to go and do those things that we know aren't going to be there the next time around. So it's a little, I'll plan a little differently than she would.
So you're saying ignorance is bliss then?
Well, depending,
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, obviously, I think given that Carrie listens to this show, I think almost everybody who listens to this show is of the type that, gets it and,
right.
Are the more rabid fans. But you're right. I mean, obviously, if you're going with, other people there, that might be an issue to consider. So
yeah, like I want to do Star Tours because I know it's gonna close. So right. I want to do that again.
The only other thing I would say, I think we answered Carrie's questions about something special to do, the recommendations for the different types of park thing. Any last advice, Mike Scopa, on how you would broach the trip? I mean, is it that much different planning a trip every 2 or 3 years than planning an annual trip?
Yeah, I think so because when I used to do that, Matt, I would have these lists that I would write down because the trip is done so infrequently. A lot of things aren't as they're not right there on the surface for you to remember to do this, remember to do that. Whereas if you're going 2 or 3 times a year, it's different. But if you're going once every 18, 24, 36 months, you need to remember, okay, we need to think about admission. We need to think about ADRs. You may forget about, oh, gee, we really have to start thinking about how many days out we need to start making ADRs. So I think that, I guess the thing that I would strongly recommend to anybody who is looking at a 2 to 3 year gap is to go out and get a book. One of the many books, like, obviously the Unofficial Guide is right there to help you because you really may, in all honesty, you can forget a lot of things, and we all know how quickly things change down there. There's always a caveat when someone asks a question about what's going on with Disney World, this or that. You have to say, as of today, this is the policy. This is what's going on. So I really think some research is in order there. That's number one.
Great point, Mike. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I want to remind all of our listeners that our next WDW Today live show is July 18th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. It's your opportunity to get your question answered the first time. Sorry, Carrie. But you can call in with your questions, comments. It's a lot of fun. Definitely come check it out. July 18th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can, of course, visit the WDW Today webpage at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, and the Fabu Annette, I'm Matt Hodgkin. See you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.